Thanks everyone for being here. Good morning. Obviously a tough day yesterday. First of all, I'd like to thank Luke Richardson for all of his effort and commitment to the organization and to the community. But unfortunately, some of the realistic expectations that we had coming into the year just were not met. I think our goals and our results fell a little bit short, and so I felt a change needed to be made, and a new voice was needed. And I'm very confident that Anders Sorensen will be a good source of new voice, new ideas, and someone that's capable of extracting more out of this group. So, with that, I'll open up to questions.
Where do you feel like he, wasn't meeting expectations?
Well, I think it was more so what we expected from, just the team from game to game. We were close in a lot of games, which is good, which is a step forward from last year. But, at times I think some of the reasons why we fell short in those games were more, call it, maybe habitual, habit things that I think can be cleaned up through feedback and through, maybe some different instruction, in practice between games, that kind of thing. And I think that was, just some of the reasons games went sideways on us, I think were likely fixable.
There had been some good progress under Anders in Rockford. Were you in any way reluctant to mess with that and bring him up and risk some steps back in Rockford?
I think there's no perfect solution when you're looking at it, and I think the work he's done for us in Rockford is impressive and notable. And in one sense, you don't want to mess with a good thing, but at the same time, just what we've seen from him and his ability to either communicate or his in-game adjustments and use of his bench and how he it implements a message is something that I think could work here, and so from that standpoint, you wanted to bring that influence into our group up in the NHL. But at the same time, he's done such a nice job with our young players, and they're so important to what we're doing here that you don't really want to alter that too much. Having said that, the way I see Rockford and our development group is that we've got a great infrastructure in place. I think Mark Eaton stepping in is someone that's been around that group a ton. He knows all the players all know him. He and Anders have worked hand in hand for a number of years now, and so I think that's a natural, seamless transition that should continue the really good work that's going on there.
Is this an audition for him, or are you looking for somebody else to take that role?
I think we're always auditioning, no matter what role we're in, and so of course, it's a great opportunity for him to show what he's got. We've seen it in the American League, and it's a bigger stage now for him to show, and so of course you're always trying to prove yourself, and I'm sure he's no different here. Having said that, our plan here is to see out the year and then run a thorough process after that. But it is an opportunity for him to show what he's got. So,
did Danny and Jamie have any say in this? And I mean, you're playing a very long game here, as you made very clear from the start. Do you sense that they're getting frustrated? Are they losing any patience here?
I don't want to speak for them, but no. It's full support from Danny, and he's there every step of the way, and we talk every single day. There's no secrets. I believe that transparent, honest communication between any boss and employees is critical. But certainly with what we're doing in the long game that we've started a couple of years ago, and that we continue to look at and executing our plan. So it's something that we're always in touch on. But he's again, I don't want to speak for him, but from my point of view, he's extremely supportive, extremely understanding of the rationale that we've got and what we're experiencing and why we in the end made a change.
How challenging was this decision where the competitiveness has improved since last season, but the results just haven't been there?
Yeah, it is frustrating, and I think you have to be realistic with what you're expecting and what you can demand out of a group. But having said that, I don't believe this is a last place group, and so that's where we find ourselves. And do I believe we deserve better in some games that we didn't get a point or 2 points out of this year? Yes, but dissect that. Why didn't we get those points? And I feel like there were things that could be cleaned up, and maybe some things kept popping up here and there that, again, probably should have been improved upon, and we find ourselves where we are, and unfortunately that's in last place in the NHL, and so you have to come to terms with the reality of that and kind of push forward. But you know what, you are competitive, and when you come to the rink you want to win, and a lot of nights after the games this year, they've been sleepless ones, right? You're really frustrated, and you know that the group probably deserves more, but having said that, you have to earn that, and you have to work at that, and it's really hard work. And this is a great league with great players, great coaches, and everyone's trying to do the same thing and win. And so it's something that you have to continually evolve and get better at. And so hopefully we can use this change as a boost of enthusiasm and get some excitement going, and hopefully the guys respond.
Did you receive any?
When did you first start considering this move, and then why make it now?
It was probably very recently. I was hopeful that the little stretch we had where we beat Dallas and Florida, that this was going to be a little bit of a turning point for us. I think we had points in 5 out of 6 points over that 3-game stretch, and it felt we beat some pretty darn good teams, and felt like something was happening. And then we've lost a couple in a row, and when I came to the conclusion that I wanted to make a change, you make it. I don't think once you cross that threshold in your own mind, you can go back. And so I crossed that point after the Boston game the other night. So but it's you're always evaluating, right? You're always considering what could be and how you want to change what's going on. And again, like, not just before the Boston game, like the results haven't been what we've wanted, but in terms of making that final determination and decision, I think it was after that point that it was like, okay, you know what, it's time to step in and make a change.
Did you get feedback from players either before or after making this move?
Not really. I think you're always talking to the players, but it wasn't anything that was negative towards Luke or anything like that. It's just it's more so lamenting the where we were in the standings and some of the results, depending on a tough game or not. I think they're all extremely respectful of Luke, and they really like him, but at the same time they recognize what most people did, is that the results just weren't there, and so it was maybe a new voice was needed, and so I think they'll get that starting today, and but again, it's nothing that was people were coming to me and asking for that, or this is something that I arrived at through my own evaluation and determination.
What would you say about this move in relationship to Connor Bedard's development specifically?
I think when you make a change like this, it's not about one player or anything. Obviously, Connor is essential to what we're doing now and in the future, but it's more of a big picture, number of different things than just one specific player. And having said that, I believe Anders' experience in some of our high-end players now, and then some of the players he's got experience with from other organizations, and his time in the game of hockey will be really beneficial for Connor, and I'm very optimistic they'll have a really positive relationship, and that he'll he'll be able to bring some ideas and thoughts to Connor in his game that Connor will find very useful. And so I think it's going to be a good partnership there. But this wasn't something that I did or came to the conclusion on based on just something around Connor. It's more of a team thing than anything else.
What are some of the things you think could be cleaned up that you alluded to?
It's fun. I think you probably wrote it's something a little different. Almost every loss that we've experienced, but it's just the basic execution, right? Like, if it's, why are we icing the puck at tough times? Like, what's the cause? Let's peel that back. What's that? Turnovers in bad spots in the ice. Let's peel that back and understand why and how do we fix that. Execution on passes. Special teams have generally been all right, but can we think through some things like that a bit better? And so there's all these little things, and like I named a few, but it's so hard just to be like we lost because we iced the puck too much. That's not realistic. That's not true. It's just over the course of games things add up, right? And when you execute at a higher level, you give yourself a better chance to not only possess the puck, to create offensive chances, and then to win the game. And so defensively, I think we've been pretty solid. I think we've cleaned up a lot of the mistakes that we saw last year. Pretty decent on the other end, but in transitioning the puck and possessing the puck a bit more and creating offense, that's been tough. And so, but there's always things to improve upon. I think we just like to see a higher execution game and a cleaner game.
We're obviously understandably talking about development and whatnot, but this is a pretty veteran team, and a lot of the guys you brought in, they're not really performing, like Tyler Bertuzzi, Teuvo Teravainen, TJ Brody. Have you been underwhelmed, for lack of a better word, about how some of these guys have performed early on?
I don't think I've been underwhelmed by players. I think it's just I think our team as a whole has not quite been what realistically what we expected us to be at this point. I think we expect to be a bit further ahead than we are. Having said that, I think if you ask almost every player to a person in that room, they'll say they need to be better. And so I don't think that's a secret that we'd like to see some more execution from the players. I think that's across the board, though, right? This is a team game. You're not where you are in the standings because of 1, 2, or 3 players. It's a team concept, and you've got to execute within that team concept. And I think the players know that they have to step up and they have to be cleaner in their games. And so I don't think that's anything that's a secret to anyone in that room.
With Anders up here and how well Frank Mazar is playing in Rockford, is there any consideration of having Frank come up and maybe bolster his offense?
I think with any player, Frank specifically, or as a group of these players, you just want to do what's best for their development. Frank's played very well. He's been a real bright spot for us, and his performance has been really exciting. So I think I think I'd like to just let the group kind of settle here a little bit. It's a big shift, big change. Let's get a couple of games under our belt. Rockford's got a couple games this weekend and I think the middle of next week. But we're always evaluating, we're always watching. But as it pertains to Frank, I don't think he's done anything to hurt his case. But what that means for recall, I think we've just got to kind of take that day by day and see where it goes.
Derek King, after your interim before, was there any consideration for?
Not really, to be honest, and that's no slight to Kinger. I think it's just more so Anders is a new face, a new voice, new ideas, and so it was just something new. We've gone down that road with Kinger before, and I think there could be some fear of him just being like the de facto interim guy, right? He's in a role here, and Anders coming in, I think that gives a little bit more of a boost to the group from my perspective and in our situation.
Will Anders definitely keep the staff together, or is it possible there might be some changes there?
The expectation is that everyone will stay together, but what could change, and we leave this to Anders and his own determination of what's needed, is how the responsibilities may shift and who he wants to work on also what he wants to work on himself. So that's something that he'll determine as he feels out the group and what's needed from the coaching staff to the players. And so we'll give him the autonomy to determine where he divvies up the responsibilities in the coaching room.
When you look back on the rebuild, you put Luke in such a difficult probably position the first couple of years, and where I guess assessing how he did in getting through those first seasons and knowing that teams weren't going to be successful, how would you just
Yeah, I think those first couple of years they were tough because where we were in our process, there was a lot of tearing down and a lot of change going out and talent going out, which is difficult for the players in the room, the coaches in the room. And I thought one of his strengths was keeping morale up and keeping things positive when it would have been very easy for them to go another direction. And he was very good at that. And so that was definitely one of his strengths is making sure that the rink was a fun place to come to, an enjoyable place to be, even when the results weren't there. Because again, as I said earlier, you come to the rink and you play this game to win, and the wins just weren't there, and so it'd be easy for that to go negative. Which, to his credit, he never let it get there. Moving into this season, I think the expectation, realistically, was a little more than it had been in the years previous, and with the results not changing, I think that's where it didn't work as much this year as it had in the previous two.
Being a last place team, I mean, you admitted there's many factors that go into that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any regrets about not bringing in more talent or different talent or doing something differently to set the team up for success more?
You're always evaluating and assessing what you could have done better. I don't know if we're at that point right now where we've got enough information. It's just I think we have taken some nice steps, but we're in last place, and so you have to recognize that, and with a little better execution and I think ability to manage some of the games and some of the personnel in games, I think could we be a bit ahead? I think so, but we are where we are, and so we'll give Anders some run, and then we'll kind of see where we're at the end of the year, take stock, and what needs to happen there. So.
I think it was Mark who pointed out yesterday online that the last 4 coaches here have been first-time coaches. As you look at this process, especially when you talk about like managing games late, how much value do you think you place on experience when you go out and look for the next coach, of the team?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not too sure where that'll shake out. It's very possible we will value it, but we just haven't gotten into that process of really establishing the framework of exactly what we're looking for. I think we want to see how the season goes, maybe what our personnel will look like moving forward, and determine what works best with that. Experience isn't a bad thing, but I'm not sure where it'll fall. It's something it's always under consideration, and especially at the NHL level, it's not nothing, that's for sure. And so I think we'll get into that process as we progress through the year and determine what we're looking for. But there's a lot of fit from a philosophical standpoint, from communication, some of those tools and those traits that coaches possess that will be very high on our list as well. And so we'll bake that mix when the time is right and figure out what it is we're specifically looking for.
Do you know what the timeline is going to be for that process? Like last time, you had a committee, and it seemed like you had a certain window for conducting that search. Do you know when that's going to begin in earnest, and are you going to do a committee again, or are you going to do things differently?
Did we do a committee last time? I don't even.
I think that was the higher end.
Oh, wait, yeah, sorry. My bad.
No, that worked out for me. So
That worked out for you.
we'll do a committee.
Yeah, sorry. But do you think,
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be something we're always talking about, but in terms of kicking off and like actually starting something, and kicking it off to talk to people and all that. It's just, we're always going to discuss, but actually speaking to candidates, and I think it's just always easier once the season's over. You can ask permissions if you need to. Seasons are finished. It's more difficult to run a bigger process in season just because of the options are a little more limited, and inevitably all of the people that you'd really like to talk to, in most cases, are not unemployed and not available to be spoken to. And so, I think with a hire that's this important, we want to make sure all of our options are available to us. We want to make sure all of our boxes are checked, and that's just more easily done once teams are finished their season.
So just to be clear, Anders does get the rest of the season.
That's the plan. Yep.
Do you, will you take more of a role, or the front office take more of a role with Anders here compared to when Luke was here, given that, he's the first time coming up in the middle of the season? Will you guys be more active, or do you anticipate giving him the similar amount of autonomy that Luke had for you?
Yeah, no, I believe the coach should have the autonomy to run the room and run the team as he sees fit. Otherwise, I believe you get some cracks in that, and maybe the authenticity of the message is lost if I'm going down there saying you should do this, you should do that. Of course, you're always discussing. It's a partnership. You're always communicating and bouncing ideas around. We all want the same thing, and we want positive progress. And so you provide your input into that. And but in the end, any strategy, any lineup, any changes, anything like that, that's the coach's job. That's the coach's responsibility, and that's going to remain consistent. But we're not going to be around. Our group is always around with Luke, and we'll always be around with Anders, sharing what we need and collaborating. But it won't be, I don't think, any more or less. Maybe at the start to help him transition, into some familiarity with what did happen. He watches a lot of our games naturally, but not to the extent that we have. So I think, just that sharing of ideas and thoughts of what has happened is maybe where we will be a little more present. But in terms of the day-to-day, his hands on the players, his hands on the team, and hands on all that strategy that will go into practice or the games, that's on him.
Kyle, Luke was your first non-interim hire. He said that you guys used to talk every day or every other day. For you personally, how tough was this decision? Did you have to wrestle with it, knowing whatever bond you guys have?
It's it's really hard. You have to separate the personal. It is a business, and it's a business decision. So when you come to a conclusion, you have to be swift and decisive and act on it. Having said that, I think everyone in this room that's had interaction to some extent with Luke knows what a special person he is. I was fortunate enough to get to know him on a personal level, get to know his family on a personal level, and I was talking to someone else recently, and they said to me, which I thought was an interesting quote, that life is a team game, and if you're looking for teammates in life, Luke and Stephanie Richardson are some of the best you'll find. So it's tough.
We all silly like the mayor.